Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are covering the Klingon Bird of Prey. So, initially, the original Klingon Bird of Prey was the Burrell class, and then later on, it had kind of grown in size, and we had the Kavort class. Now, I'm throwing a third one in here, and I'm going to try and see if I can't do this correctly as I try and find the correct one here. Um, Nope. Let's see. Here we are. No, I got the two of them now somewhere in here. I don't think I. I think what I've done is I kind of messed up, and I don't have the third one in here for stats. But there is a third one, and essentially it's more of an attack, a small attack ship. Um, and I thought I had everything all queued up, and of course now I'm becoming a liar here. Uh, it's only meant for a crew of six. So it follows the same design. Essentially, I believe they were using the same model that they used for the Burrell. Uh, and that's just the whole design lineage. Because originally, when we were doing all this stuff, we had to have the models. We didn't have the CGI. So they made the Burrell for, um, not the Wrath of Khan, the Search for Spock. And then they used that design to go against the Federation from the Klingon side in a couple different movies, including uh, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, where the crew had actually kind of captured the bird of prey and they took it back in time. And then we also get to see it in The Final Frontier. So, it's one of those. They used it a number of times because they had the model and they needed a protagonist ship, and here we were. And then when we got to the next generation, they wanted to use it, but they needed to upgrade the size because obviously a small little ship like that was not going to be a big threat for a now 600-meter long Galaxy class Enterprise. Um, so it's taking what they had, and we see this quite a bit in Star Trek where they use a ship, then they kind of flip it over, repaint it real quick, and now it's something else, or they will do something else with it, and it's just trying to take what they had for existing models to save cost, and that's really what it came down to. So let's get into what we have here from the Decipher book. We'll kind of read a little bit more through it, and then we'll go into each individual ship itself. So uh, initially, this was a Romulan design, likely obtained during the Klingon Romulan alliance of the 23rd century. The bird of prey fulfills an important role in the Imperial Klingon Defense Force. The Burrell was, and is, a small, fast scout ship capable of performing defensive and offensive missions as well as reconnaissance behind enemy lines. The class was designed to employ stealth and infiltrate hostile territories and strike quickly and effectively against unsuspecting targets. Based on the success of the Burrell, a larger model, the Cavort, was commissioned in the 24th century. The Cavort fills a niche in between the larger uh, Vorcha and Katang class cruisers and the Burrell class. It performed much of the same operation role as a smaller cousin, though it carries a larger crew, making it more effective as a base of operations for export or expeditionary forces. Now, in features, the Burrell led to the charge in the Klingon tactics, while the commanders of the older, larger D7 and Katanga class cruisers bombarded their targets with massive firepower from long range. The bird of prey captains used the ship's speed and cloaking device to attack at close range, often in strafing runs. This compensates for the class's relatively light armament. The space frame of both classes employ a distinctive style. The ship was used in a variable position wing assembly that kept it flat for cruising, raised to serve as airfoils in planetary atmosphere, or lower into attack position, both the Burrell and Cavort classes still bearing the distinctive bird-like markings on the original Romulan design. Both possess atmospheric landing capabilities. This allows the ship to transport expeditionary forces and function as a base of operation during planetary landfall. Intended to penetrate hostile regions of space, a cloaked bird of prey can travel through territory with minimum risk of being detected. The sneak up on unsuspected starships. Cloaking devices suffer from one drawback. Ships equipped with them cannot engage weapons, deflector shields, or transports while cloaked. Uh, Klingon bird of prey must decloak in order to fire weapons, leaving the ship momentarily vulnerable during the critical onset time between the cloak deactivation and the shield engagement. An experimental cloaking device developed in 2293 corrected this deficiency but was subsequently destroyed. Finally, although the Starfleet and others have developed numerous ways to detect a cloaked ship, tracking its neutron radiation output, scanning for residual plasma contrails, and so on, these techniques only remain viable for a short time until the Klingon engines develop a fix. So we do have trying to track cloaked ships, which they've already kind of mentioned here a little bit, so I'm not going to read through that. Um, and this actually really goes for the Decipher book, but they're saying it requires a target number of 20 on a skill test, which could very easily be transferred over for the D6. Um, that was one of the things I did notice with trying to play a little bit of the Decipher, and even with a lot of the other games, because we're always looking for a target number. 5 is very easy, 10 is common. Um, 15 is a little bit more tricky. 20, yeah, this is kind of sketchy. 30 is kind of your impossible. As you get more skilled characters or whatever, you can even up it to something else if you really need to. Um, but you get the idea. Uh, and this is kind of where we'll leave the write up here, and we'll start going into our kind of ships. And I will find the other one. If even if that means that I have to go to Daystrom's Institute, and I will directly copy it or just show you from there, because I think it's important. Because as it was stated, we look at the Burrell. Okay, this is a light warship. It's a capital scale. It's 157 meters long. Has a ship mass of 236 metric tons. It's a size 4 craft. Has an autopilot of 3D plus 1, so it can fly itself reasonably well. Has a crew of 12. Skeleton, you can do it just with one person, because we do see, and I'm going to mess this up. Was it Wolt? Um, I don't think I don't think that's really true. I know it's in one of the other books. They give him credit, and I think it is actually from the Klingon dictionary. If you notice in there, it will actually have the character's name from the Search for Spock. They have that character's name in the book as a contributor to learning Klingon language. And I'm going to really mess this up because I can't remember the name offhand, which regrettably, when I get into doing the videos, there are certain things that my mind just blanks out on, and I do really apologize for it. It's just one of those things. You just kind of get into it, and the mind blows. All right, passengers. We can carry 28 passengers, typically Klingon warriors, for planetary invasion or raiding or whatever we have. Cargo space, we have about 9,000 metric tons. We have enough consumables for 1 year. Our warp drive has a standard speed of warp 6. It can do 8.5 and maintain that. And we can do warp 9.6 for 6 hours. Of course, it's going to have a nav computer. We have a maneuverability of 2D plus 1, which is on par with what we want to see our galactic standard should be. If you see, everything should be roughly a 2. And we kind of go from there. Now, if I'm bringing it into our Star Wars, I'm going to give it an 8X backup and a 1X primary, but we'll keep going with the Star Trek here. That's not a problem. It has a space movement of 7.5. Atmospheric flight, we can do 1,025 kilometers an hour. It does have a hull of 2D and a shields of 1D plus 2. So the shields are just under where our standard should be, but in all, it's not that bad for what we've been seeing here from the Klingon or from the D6 holocron. Everything has been matched fairly similar, so it's not really that far off. All right, our sensor packet here, we can passively scan for 3 kilometers with a plus 1D. We can do an active scan for 8 kilometers with a plus 1D plus 2. We have a search out to 12 kilometers with an additional 2D to our roll. We have a focus of 500 meters with an additional 2D plus 2. Now, we do have the cloaking device, which adds a 2D plus 1 difficulty to detect the ship. Now, moving on, we also have 2 Type 7 disruptor cannons. They have a forward 180 degree arc. Let's see, has a fire control of 1D plus 1. We can fire 3 times in 1 round, and it does 3D damage. We do have a photon torpedo launcher, has 1 forward arc. Let's see, has a fire control of 1D plus 1. We are carrying 30 Type 2 photon torpedoes on the ship, and it has a spread of 6. That gives us the ability to shoot 6 torpedoes out at one time at 4D damage each. We do have 2 Class Gamma tractor beams, 1 forward, 1 aft, so if we have to tow something, we have a fire control of 1D and a strength of 3D plus 2. Now, we do have 20 Spartan quarters, 10 basic quarters, and we have 5 decks on ship. Now, I have seen some of the schematics for this, and these are not really the most luxurious looking quarters. And we do see that on Star Trek The Next Generation later on in the series, where Picard and Data are kind of passengers on a would be the Cavort class, trying to get to Romulus, so to meet up with Ambassador Spock. So we do have 20 escape pods that can carry 4 warriors on each. Your commissioned, where that came from, is 2269 from Earth Reckoning, significantly upgraded in eras of 2290, 2320, and 2350s. All right, we do have 1 transporter, which can move 4 personnel at a time, 1 cargo transporter, which can haul 4,000 kilograms at one time. And we do have 20 probes. So there we are with this ship. Now we'll kind of transition to the next one. We'll get our Cavort here. So as we look at our bigger ship, and it's still a raider ship, and that's where I'm trying to go with. All 3 of these are really more raider ships. The fact that they're smaller crews in comparison to a lot of the other ships that we really see out there, they're still meant for quick in and out raiding kind of tactics like that. So we went up to a length of 323 meters, has a mass of 2,450,000 metric tons. This is now a size 7 ship. Still has the autopilot of 3D plus 1, so that's really not changed. Has a crew of 355. Remember, we started off with 12, so now we're up to 355. Skeleton crew of 36 can take care of this vessel. We can have passengers of 1,200. So this is really beefed up from where we were. Cargo capacity is 33,000 metric tons. Consumables is 2 years. We have a warp drive. For our standard is a warp 6. We can maintain a warp 9.2, and we can hit 9.6 for 12 hours. We do bringing it into our Star Wars is the same as what I had before, but so that I didn't change any of that. Our nav computer, of course, has a maneuverability of 1D plus 1, so it's not as maneuverable because now it's a larger ship. We still have our space of 7.5. Our hull has increased to a 3D plus 2, so we've added, an extra die to it. Let me try and get our... All right, so our Burrell, let's see, was a hull of 2D, shields of 1D plus 2. So now we have a hull of 3D plus 2, so almost an extra 2D. And our shields have improved by 1D. Our sensors have looked like they've really improved here. Passively, we can go out to 3.5 kilometers at a 1D plus 1. We can do an active scan at 10 kilometers at a plus 1D plus 2. Our search is 14 kilometers, which I think dropped down just a tad, but it's at a 2D plus 1, and a focus is at 1 kilometer. So it's actually able to do a focus out a little farther than what we normally see, and that's at the 3D. So some of this has improved a little bit, and some of it is just kind of maintained. Our cloaking device is at a plus 2D plus 2 for difficulty. We have now 4 Type 9 disruptor cannons. Let's see. Fire control is 1D plus 1. We still have our fire rate of 3, and damage is at 4. We now have 2 photon torpedo launchers, one in the forward, one in the aft. Let's see, fire control is 1D. It's a spread of 6, doing 4D damage. And we're still using Type 2 photon torpedoes, but instead of only having 30, we now have 160 of them. So that means that it's able to maintain a longer duration of a firefight. We have 2 Class 2 Delta tractor beams, 1 forward, 1 aft, and we have a fire control of 1D plus 1. And it has a strength of 4D plus 2. Now we do have a shuttle bay now, seeing that it is a much larger vessel, and that's probably going to use our Talon class shuttle. Let's see. So that's our shuttle bay. Fire control is plus 2, and our strength is 3D. We have crew quarters, so we have barracks housing for 1,200 crew members. We have Spartan for 160 crew members, basic for 90, expanded for 30, and luxury for 7. Because this is a much larger warship, it has been used, and I think Gowron himself was using one of these for his flagship. Because if you kind of started off using a Burrell class and you're used to doing the tactics of that style instead of using a D7 or a D9 class, whatever, you're going to want to have something that mimics that, but it's now a larger ship. So that's really where the Cavort kind of accelerates, because you're still capable of doing those same tactics. Okay, we do have 10 decks on board. We have 160 escape pods, still for 4 warriors on each pod. And due to Earth Reckoning, this was launched roughly about 2339. We now have 2 transporter bays for 4 warriors each. We have 3 emergency bay transporters that can carry 16 personnel. And then we have 2 cargo transporters, which can carry 400 kilograms each transport. Now, we have 6 shuttlecraft for a complement. So being able to throw out other shuttles or whatever is very important for a big change in operation, because now they have that ability to possibly drop off the shuttles and let someone go there, or flee this ship to hit the planet and do whatever they got to do while you're still strafing around. We do have 40 probes on board the ship. So that's where we have with these. Now, we will switch over, and like I said, I will get you that other one just in a second here. All right, so getting to our third ship here. This is the Kapak class. So this is considered a light corvette. If you can't tell, this is from Daystrom Institute. .org. So it's ditl.org. If you're looking for this, shout out to them, because again, it's another website that they have gone through trying to make sure that they have all the information that they get. And some of this stuff, I don't know where they get it from. It does list it below, and I'll show you where these people get connections. It just boggles my mind. So, all right. So this is, like I said, a light corvette. They even go in for seeing that there were about 791 built in total. Let's see, this was commissioned in 2345 to about 2365. It has a length of only 35 meters. So this would be a perfect ship style for like how I game or whatever, if I was doing Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever, because it's a ship meant for a small crew. All right, it has a mass of 790 metric tons. It's a crew of 6. It has 2 Mark V pulse disruptor cannons, and it has a total output of 1,500 terawatts, and 1 basic photon torpedo tube with 6 rounds. I'm probably going to say that if you were going to move this into our kind of D6 gaming itself, I would probably put it roughly about on par with our Burrell class as far as the weapons here. It's just that it's only going to have 6 rounds because it's a small ship. All right, defense has a shield system, and this is taking from the manual, so this is where things kind of always differ, right? Has a shield capacity of 162 terajoules shield capacity. So if I was going to say, here's a Burrell, which had 877. So, trying to figure this out, and if that had a 1D plus 2, I'd say that this is probably only a plus 2 for our shields. Our hull, duranium, titanium, single hull plus 2 centimeters high density armor. So that's going to be a half of whatever we had before. So if we were, say, a 2D plus 2, I'd say probably a 1D plus 1. You're just keeping it in those same principles, right? Cruise speed is, it can maintain 5 for standard travel. It can do a maximum of 7, and it can hit warp 9 for about 12 hours. And of course, then we have to kind of um, shut down for maintenance and everything else because you're overstressing the engines. All right, so uh, beam firepower is 30, torpedo firepower is 50, weapon range, shield strength, all this stuff. This is stuff that they use for all theirs for rating one ship to another. Now, it's very possible that they're taking that from some other game type that they use themselves. I'm not going to say it is, and I'm not going to say it isn't, because honestly, it is something that I personally don't know. But what they are saying is, if you're looking at a Galaxy class at being a 1,000, and this is why when I first started doing this series, I had the Constitution class, the Galaxy class, and the NX class, because everything else has to kind of be based off of those ships, because those are the ones that were showcased in the series. Everything else has to be a plus or minus from there. So, in relation to a Galaxy class, this is only going to be a 30 compared to a 1,000, which would be the Galaxy Class 1. Um, Firepower being the same, you know. So you get an understanding how much weaker this is in comparison. But there again, this is only meant for a crew of 6. Small little raiding vessel. In a lot of regards, being one deck, um, I'm thinking that this is going to be a size 3 vessel. A size 2 would be a shuttle or a runabout that you could actually fit inside another starship. Being a size 3 makes it just outside of that realm to say what you can and can't do. Now, if I take my Decipher book and we look at a 35 meter, which, because it does have all that stuff in here. Defensive. Let's see. As I'm flipping back, trying not to go too far back, but it's talking about sensors, size by fleet, size. So, um, nope, 35 meters long would technically still put it at a size 2. So, technically, if you're doing video games and stuff like that, which is where things get really silly, um, or video games, sometimes with role playing games and stuff like that, you can kind of abuse systems and so on and so forth. And not that I'm trying to. You could technically have 6, or yeah, because I think it said shuttlecraft. So technically, I think you could have like 6 of these on a bird of prey, and then launch them out, and then you have, you know, mini bird of preys. Uh, that's someone abusing the system. Personally, I would look at it and say, okay, it's this, and here we are. Um, I wouldn't actively try and do that, but it is a something. If their hangar deck was empty, I'd say you could probably land in there, but you get the idea. How silly can you go and whatever else. And of course, let's see. Um, Expected hull life is like 30 years. Refit cycle should be a year standard, or for minor, 1 year for standard, and major refits would be 15 years. Um, and then the write up that they have here from Daystrom, yet another variant of the bird of prey design, the Kapak, is a scaled down version which the Klingon use as a corvette or light escort vessel. The basic bird of prey shape has been kept, but reduced by some 35 or to some 35 meters in length. At this size, the forward section is just large enough to accommodate a small control compartment with a compact torpedo launcher beneath. So the torpedoes on here are going to be very similar to what we are using on the Federation runabouts. So think of it in that regard. The aft section contains a single 4.6 meter tall deck, which is divided into a 3 meter work area with a 1.6 meter crawlway beneath. As usual, the wings carry a pair of disruptor cannons, but the reduction in size means that there are no emergency torpedo There is no emergency torpedo tube. So, and then they kind of go through, and this is always an interesting, and I'm just, um, if it's white, stuff is speculative. The Way of the Warrior, comparison to the Vorcha attack cruiser Way of the Warrior, because they actually have the only image they have is with it being underneath a Vorcha here. And here we have, what, one, two of them. So, that's all we really get. And we can do size comparisons here. So just kind of trying to show you 35 meters. Yeah, it's that same ship. And then here's a Neelix's Trader. So it's really the same size. And, you can kind of bring the stuff in. Um, you know, so you have like a crawl space to get in there, and you just kind of go from there. But it's just the interesting design and trying to follow along. I knew this was going to be a little bit longer video than what I normally try to go for on these, just trying to capture one. But I thought it was fitting because to hit that bird of prey raider vessel, there are really three different classes of this. And I really wanted to showcase all three of them in one video. I thought it would do a little injustice if I just took one at a time, because taking a small raider and then increasing it, because now we have people in high command in the Klingon Empire that want a more command ship but still doing those same tactics. They made a larger variant of a bird of prey, and then getting back down to that very small core principle of what a bird of prey is, we bring it down to what we have in the Kapak. So it's an interesting journey in the size and creativity of it, and the fact that for saving costs for the for Star Trek and all that, you could use that same model over and over again. So for everybody that's been involved in doing all the different variations, from D6 Holocron to Daystrom Institute here, I appreciate everyone that had made all the stuff that I'm able to share with you today. And I thank you very much for stopping by and visiting. It's always wonderful having you stop by. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.